Martin McGuinness, Sinn Fein, thanks for your time. The real IRA promised on Easter Sunday to kill more PSNI officers. Clearly your condemnation is falling on deaf ears.
Well, I think clearly we're faced with a small number of groups who are totally unrepresentative of where the vast majority of our people are coming from, and who, it appears, are dedicated to every now and again doing something, which unfortunately results sometimes in the taking of people's lives. But the difficulty that they face, given that they've asserted that they want to bring about the reunification of Ireland, is that they can't do that without the support of the people of Ireland. And quite clearly, implicitly in the statement that they made, they see Sinn Fein and all of the political parties on the island of Ireland, the Catholic Church, the GA, and indeed the Protestant churches, they see us as all being the enemy. And I think that they need to reflect on that and recognise that the key objectives that they set themselves, and there are three key objectives. One is to destroy the peace process. Two is to try to break up my positive working relationship with the leader of unionism. And three, attempting to turn back the clock on policing. None of these objectives are achievable. In fact, everything that they do makes us stronger and more determined to ensure that they do not succeed. So I am very confident that whilst we have to put up with this every now and again, that ultimately we, within the democratic process, are the people who will prevail.
Martin McGuinness, you know some of the dissidents. Are you giving police information, or is there an honour code amongst former combatants?
Well, I have made it absolutely clear to the public that those people who are determined to destroy the peace process, that there is a responsibility on every single member of the public who knows where their weaponry is or their explosives is, or knows anything about the activities of people who are in a violent way engaged in trying to overthrow the will of all of the people of Ireland who voted for a better way forward and for the agreement, that people should give that information. I have also to be consistent. If people are being advised by me to do that, then I have to be prepared to do the same, and I am absolutely prepared to do the same.
Move on to the economy in a second, but you believe the UK government is already secretly talking to dissident Republicans. Would it clear the air and be helpful if that became a transparent public negotiation, and would you get involved?
Well, I mean, it was I who broke the story last year that the leadership of what was called the Real IRA were involved in discussions with representatives of the British government. And I think all of the investigative journalists who have looked at my claims have come down on the side that I was absolutely right, that was happening. So I come from that school of thought that these people need to be challenged. And I welcome very much the statement yesterday from Father Michael Kenny from the St. Eugene's Cathedral in Derry, that he was prepared to meet these groups to point out to them the need for them to stop and to point out the fact that they are running totally and absolutely against the desires and aspirations of the overwhelming majority of the people of Ireland.
Unemployment, Martin McGuinness, is falling in Britain but still rising in Northern Ireland. 20% of our young people here haven't a job. How will you help them find work?
Well, I think there's a number of things that we can do, and we're already doing them. I think we're all very conscious that we're dealing with this situation in the face of a very vicious world recession that has been very damaging, particularly for our construction industry. But I think that, even against the backdrop of job losses, Peter Robinson and I have been able to bring thousands of new jobs to the north as a result of the links that we've brought out, that we have developed in the United States of America. Jobs like the New York Stock Exchange, the Citigroup, Dow Chemicals, and indeed many others. And of course the development of a film academy which employs people from all over the north, where some 800 people were employed making the feature-length film for Universal and then the series Game of Thrones for HBO. So I think we have been very successful in bringing in jobs, and I think if we can achieve the lower rate of corporation tax, which we're presently negotiating around, that will bring many thousands of more jobs. We also have to support local indigenous business, and underpinning of the manufacturing rates to a level that is acceptable was something that was widely welcome within the manufacturing sector, and of course the small business rate relief scheme. So we have to continually challenge ourselves to see what more we can do to support our own indigenous business, who have been the backbone of our economy for many, many years. I think also in terms of the need to ensure, as I think we can get agreed, issues that eluded us in the last term of the Assembly. For example, the review of public administration, which would save hundreds of millions of pounds.
That's been delayed.
Yeah, but not on Sinn Féin's account. We were very much for that, and it wasn't through ourselves that was delayed. The establishment of the Education and Skills Authority, which also would save tens of millions of pounds. All of these can be put into frontline services and into developing processes which will hopefully get many of our people who are presently unemployed back to work.
But your party, Sinn Féin, has pledged no water charges in the next Assembly. Many economists think they're inevitable, as we need the money to protect frontline services. Something, I say to you, has got to give.
Well, we're not giving on this. Our position is very, very clear. The public are already hugely burdened by the recession and by the economic difficulties that they're all facing. I think it would be totally wrong for us to impose charges of up to £400 on an already very hard-pressed community. What we have to do is continue to develop our water infrastructure, and we've poured something like £800 million over the course of the last couple of years into upgrading that. And in fact, it wasn't that infrastructure that let us down during the course of the bad winter just past. It was the fact that out of many private and commercial businesses, we were losing a huge amount of water as a result of deficiencies within private institutions, something that we obviously need to look at. So no, it is no to water charges, and I think that from our perspective, given the economic circumstances that people are faced with, that is the correct course.
You mentioned the fight for lower corporation tax. That's business in progress. Sinn Féin also want cross-border tax harmonisation. Surely, Martin McGuinness, that's impractical. George Osborne will give you the red flag on that, and Sammy Wilson.
Well, I mean, getting more tax-varying powers is very important for our institutions, and that's something that Sinn Féin has been majoring on because we think that can make a real difference. Remember, whenever, unfortunately, the Ulster Unionists went into alliance with the Conservative Party, which resulted in us being cut something like $4 billion out of our budget for the capital budget up to 2017, we didn't sit back and accept that. We established the Budget Review Group, and through the auspices of that group, raised something like £1,600 million, which we have put into departments to protect frontline services. The whole issue of corporation tax, I believe there is a very strong case for the harmonisation, for example, of corporation tax. And the 12.5%, which is presently the rate of corporation tax in the south, places us at a huge disadvantage, given that it's around 28% in the north. So I'm glad that we're winning that argument, and that we are hopefully going to see the outcome of a negotiation which will allow us to lower the rate of corporation tax in harmony with the south, and in the process of doing that, bring in many tens of thousands of new jobs. We also have a situation where, as a result of our discussions in the United States of America in relation to foreign direct investment, interesting discussions where we have one leading businessman in a multinational company who talks about, for example, and these are his exact words to us in October of last year, he said, I look at a place where there's 1.6 million people and I don't get excited. But I look at an island where there's 6 million people and I do get excited. So I think that the tax harmonisation argument that Sinn Féin have been making is one that is increasingly winning the argument and will result in many thousands of new jobs.
Which brings us neatly to my next question. Sinn Féin wants a referendum on Irish unity in the next Assembly. I would put it to you that the cash per republic doesn't want to be lumbered with an extra 6 counties. Is this not grandstanding, Martin McGuinness, in the run-up to the 100th anniversary of Easter 1916?
No, I mean, I think, it is now long accepted that it is a legitimate political objective to bring about the reunification of Ireland by peaceful and democratic means. I mean, if the people of Germany had have accepted that argument, we would never have seen the fall of the Berlin Wall and the coming together of East and West Germany, which has now happened. And there were difficult economic times ahead, but there's no doubt whatsoever that Germany, as time progresses, emerges as a much stronger economy. I mean, it's an insult to our intelligence to suggest that we couldn't do the same. The difficulties in the South at the minute are obviously an argument against it, but those difficulties were created by a combination of factors: the negligence of politicians, the greed of developers, and the greed of bankers. The combination of all of that led us to a situation where the resources of the country and the much needed funds that could have been poured into jobs and services was effectively drained away by an incompetent government in the South and greedy developers and bankers.
Martin McGuinness, if Sinn Fein top the poll on May the 5th, and some say that that's entirely plausible, and you become First Minister, would you change OFM, DFM into a joint First Ministry? Are you thinking that far ahead at the minute?
Well, this is a debate that I wasn't part of. This was a debate that was going on within unionism in relation to let's stop Martin McGuinness and Sinn Fein getting the position of First Minister. And of course the media joined in that because it was an interesting story from their perspective. I was asked a question about it a couple of weeks ago, and I said that if it did come to pass that Sinn Fein was returned with the largest number of seats, that I would make an argument that Sinn Fein, in a spirit of generosity, should make it clear to whoever's the leader of unionism as a result of that election that we use the titles of two First Ministers, or joint First Ministers, rather than the title that the SDLP settled for during the Good Friday negotiations of First and Deputy First Minister.
Given the fact that you've been politically mainstream for so long now, do you think that such a scenario wouldn't frighten the unionist horses, you being First Minister?
No, I think people are over that a long time ago. I think that, at least I hope that I have shown leadership within government. I would hope that the contributions that I've made to transforming the political landscape in the North and improving people's quality of lives and stretching out the hand of friendship to people who were previously my political opponents or who even regarded me as an enemy, I would hope that that has made an impact. We have to work together. And whenever you get, as I do in the course of this election, and indeed the last election, being brought into houses of people who are saying that they're Protestants, that they are going to vote for me in the election, and I ask them why would they not vote for a unionist candidate, and they're saying, well, we like what you say, and we have to live together, we have to end division. That's very, very heartwarming for me, and I've made huge friends through the journey of this peace process in the Protestant community, and I value those friendships very much indeed, and they are evidence that things are changing quite dramatically.
Finally, Martin McGuinness, to your final pitch, as it were, some might say Sinn Féin are increasingly expert at administering British rule in Northern Ireland, albeit with a sort of an Irish veneer over it. Address maybe the apathetic, those with no job, those tempted with dissident republicanism. Why vote Sinn Féin on May the 5th?
Well, people should vote Sinn Féin because we have made a huge difference. And people should reflect on the fact, for example, at the last two elections, the European election and the last Westminster election, that Sinn Féin emerged as the party with the largest number of votes. There are more Irish Republicans in the north of Ireland than at any other time since partition. And if people don't have a vision in relation to where that leads, then I think they need to reflect themselves on the fact that their prejudices are overshadowing the logic of where we find ourselves in a totally new situation. A party that is unapologetically Irish Republican, that through the involvement in the Good Friday Agreement and the St Andrews Agreement have brought about a situation where powers have been transferred to the island of Ireland from London. When you get a leader, for example, like Ian Paisley, sitting down with me on the very first time that we sat together, and he said, and these are his exact words, Martin, we can rule ourselves. We don't need these direct rule ministers coming from England telling us what to do. And when he said that, that was common ground that both of us could stand on. And I want to develop that further in the sure knowledge that we improve the quality of people's lives, that we join the battle together, not against each other, but join the battle together against the recession and unemployment, and to break down the divisions in the north and between north and south, and to make the island of Ireland a far better place than it was before.
Martin McGuinness, thank you for your time. You must surely be on 18-hour days at the minute, and all the best.
Thank you, Roger. God bless.